Thoughtworks, item number 20, causal management of webhooks. Hold. This means that this is not something to adopt, this is not something to trial, this is not something to assess, this is something to hold, to continue with caution, or even not to continue at all. Consider the cons about this. So first, what are webhooks? So servers open interfaces, basically API calls that we can call HTTP GET, HTTP POST, but so everything is still HTTP GET, HTTP POST. If we are using the HTTP protocol, it can be a different protocol. Webhooks it's not specific protocol for the sake of it, but let's stick with the HTTP and REST interfaces. So when we have standard REST interfaces, we can call, the client can call, post, add an order, I'm going to adding something to the cart, whatever it's called, the server. But let's not say that we want to send a message from the server to the client. We want to tell the client something is updated. Let's say it's a Discord a service or a chat service, and we want to send a message to the client. So there are multiple ways. One way could be that the client would expose an interface, and maybe a client like a Discord client is not a good example. If it's another server or another place that wants to receive basically events from the server, then you create the URL as a client. You copy this URL, let's say HTTP my service call me /call me, and you give this call me /call me to the service, and now the service knows that whenever it wants to update you, it is going to call this webhook. This is why it's called webhook. You're providing a hook and you're telling it, whenever you have an update me. So this is the basic concept behind this. It does not mean that always it's unidirectional. It does not mean that always the server will call the client and not the client the server. The server could also provide a webhook to the client. So as you see, we need to take some URL and hand it on to another service and write it there and tell him, this is our service. This somehow resembles like providing client keys from one service to another, or providing something. And if we don't know to manage it, then if it gets on the wrong hands and we don't have proper authentication, then someone can send these open security risks, right? Because we are transferring here something like URLs one from another, hopefully not in Git. Treat it as secret. So this is the item. Treat webhooks as secrets, because this is some URL that you're providing, something a unique URL with client key. Now that we got an overview about webhooks and casual management of webhooks, let's actually read the item from Technology Radar about casual management of webhooks to hold. As remote work continues to increase, so does the adoption of chat, collaboration platforms, and chat ops. These platforms offer webhooks, so that they take as a specific example chat ops. These platforms often offer webhooks as a simple way to automate sending messages and notifications, but we are noticing a concerning trend: the casual management of webhooks, where they are treated as configuration rather than a secret or credential. So don't treat it as code, don't treat it as configuration, treat it as secret or credential. And they are saying that they are actually saying that it's treated as configuration. This can lead to phishing attacks and compromised internal spaces. Webhooks are credentials that offer privileged access to an internal space and may contain API keys. Sometimes in webhook you will see this AZ89ABCZA. In the URL itself you would see something unique that can be easily extracted and utilized directly. Not treating them as secrets opens up the possibility of successful phishing attacks. Webhooks in Git repos can easily be extracted and used to send fraudulent payloads, which the user may not have any way to authenticate. To mitigate this threat, Teams handling webhooks need to shift their culture and treat webhooks as sensitive credentials. Software developers building integrations with chatbots platform must also be mindful of these risks and ensure that webhooks are handled with proper security measures. So, webhooks, when managing them, the recommendation is to not handle as casual, not handle them just as one more entry to the database, but as actual secrets.